About 9 o'clock is when we'd start our job. And that night just happened to be the night that I was scheduled to be up in the tower, and there's not a lot of interaction with the inmates when you're up in the towers, so most of the inmates were, going to sleep and getting ready for the next day. Officer Jason was in the tower with me that night. He's a good kid. He's 21, he's new. Jason and I were talking when a buzz came over the speaker, and a buzz usually lets us know that somebody's at the gate that needs to be popped through. And we do this only for the officers, we don't do it for the inmates. I asked him, I said, who is it? And he said, I don't know, it looks like Officer Martin. And my stomach just kind of started turning, it just didn't feel right. So here comes up this officer, so we think, and he rears back with a 30-inch industrial paddle that kind of looks like a spatula, but they're used in the kitchens for stirring and everything. And he, looks at me and said, "Oh, you got complacent," and rears back and hits Jason upside the head, crushing his eye orbital. I, thinking to myself, what's going on? Wait, I gotta stop this guy. So I get in a, football stance and I tackle him, and he grabs my head and shoves it into his knee, and I go down on the ground. Me and Jason both were handcuffed behind our backs, and it's not till 10 or 15 minutes later that we realized that, or I realized that this is an inmate and not an officer. Of course, I get handcuffed first, and Jason's screaming, and he's yelling, and he's bleeding. And I'm trying to figure out, asking what's going on. Let's talk about this, and he's telling me to shut up. And then he grabs the gun that was unloaded and the bullets in the magazine, and he starts putting the bullets into the magazine. And, I'm thinking, I'm dead, what's going on here? How can I defuse it? How can I fix this? After he gets the gun loaded, he made several phone calls to an inmate in the kitchen, inmate Coy. He made several contacts with inmate Coy, saying, okay, it's time for you to come up here. And me and Jason were forced downstairs with the AR-15 at our backs and our heads. And while all this is going on, there hasn't been called an emergency response yet. So nobody knows what's going on, except for me and Jason. He told Jason to hold open the door. And so I'm laying there next to Jason. I'm like, the door's being held open. Inmate Wassner's firing rounds from the AR-15 into the yard. He's covering the yard, firing shots at other officers to allow his partner, inmate Coy, to make it from the kitchen to the tower. And I'm going, this is not good. And please don't hit any other officers. I hope that this inmate can't shoot right. He got his partner, inmate Coy, to get into the tower, and then the door shuts. And what I remember of the academy is that, if you're taken hostage, there's no negotiating. So what does that tell you? Okay, I'm dead. They're not gonna negotiate for my life. Inmate Wassner then gets a phone call from our lieutenant, and they're asking him what does he want, let's resolve this. And of course, inmate Wassner's going, nah, we want something different. I'm not sure yet, but we'll let you know. Inmate Wassner was kind of paranoid, thinking that, snipers will start shooting. So inmate Wassner forced me to take off my pants. Well, he took off my pants and my boots and tossed them over to inmate Coy and said, go downstairs and get these clothes on so that they don't know who you are. So while inmate Coy was downstairs changing in my clothes, inmate Wassner had me and Jason in the corner, and Jason's going in and out of consciousness. And Wassner decides that, he's gonna sexually assault me. Jason's put into the corner of the staircase, and, I'm telling Coy, please don't, please don't. You don't want to do this. I'm thinking of everything I can. And needless to say, I got sexually assaulted by inmate Coy. To give you an idea about how I was locked up, I had a pair of handcuffs. To the handcuffs was a pair of leg irons. Attached to the leg irons was a belly chain, and that was attached to a pole. So I only had so much movement in the tower. I was on a leash like a dog. I awoke to Wassner telling me that Jason's going to be released, and what they're planning on doing is getting a bunch of food and some supplies in exchange for his release. It's like, wait, I'm a female. I've been raped. I'm a single mom. I should be the one going home, not him. And Coy told me that I was a better bargaining tool, that I was a single female mom, and they could get more out for me than what they could for a male. Inmate Wassner's telling me that today's the day, they're gonna end this, but if they don't follow the rules, we'll just keep it going. One of Wassner's last and final demands was for 2 steak dinners. They wanted a 12-pack of Heineken and a large cheese crust stuffed pizza. Well, they were finally talked down to 2 beers. That was their last and final demands. Wassner took the guns down. He had the AR-15. I was in the middle, and then Coy was behind me with the shotgun, not on safety. So we came out of the tower. The officers are telling Wassner exactly what to do: turn around, drop everything, walk backwards, lay down. And then, I go to start walking out, and then I backed all the way up, and I had somebody snatch me from the other side of the fence, and I was out the gate, down the road, by the time that the whole thing ended, on my way to the hospital. I survived because I look at myself as a survivor and not a victim. I survived because my family was out there and I need to get back with them. I survived because I love life.